Hi everybody, I'm back again. It's Ronnie from Chanson Naturals, and today we're here to talk about water filtration. Most of you probably remember me from all of my water ionizer videos and the different seminars and teachings that I've got on YouTube, where I teach about structured water, ionized water, electrically altered water, hydrogen water, which I'm still very much involved with, and you can see the various technologies that we have for that on our website, which you'll see on the screen at some point in this video. But today, I want to talk about a passion of mine, which is water filtration. Now, I started looking into water filtration about 14 years ago, and I did it first with the conventional water industry. I started going to the water shows. I mean, if anybody's ever been to a car show or an electronics show, or, you know, any of these trade shows where they have these huge arenas packed with booth after booth after booth. Can you imagine what a geek you have to be with water to go to a water show? It's 4 days of basically very similar technologies just put in different packages. And I went to those for years. I learned a lot. And one of the main things I learned is the water industry, in other words, the industry that makes the filters, and you see their commercials on TV, you see their products in the home stores. They're not really the health industry. The water industry and the health industry, I'm talking about natural alternative health, they're not the same at all, and they're not connected in any way whatsoever. The water industry is really focused on trying to make the water safe by the World Health Organization standards and NSF standards and EPA standards. Those standards aren't quite what health people want to see. So for example, they might have a standard to say you can have 4 parts per million of fluoride in your water, where the health people want to see less than 1/100th of a part per million or 1 part per billion in the water. So I learned that they are completely different, and that most of the filters on the market, let's take for example the pitcher that we all know about that is in so many American homes and different countries' homes. That water filter pitcher, now, most of you, I'm going to shock you at this, and you've seen the commercials. Some of you grew up watching those commercials. Do you know that that main company that sells that pitcher makes no claim except that that filter reduces lead? They don't say they remove or reduce chlorine, which is the #1 chemical in all of our water, or chloramine, which is another form of chlorine, or all the different heavy metals or pesticides, they don't mention any of that. They just say that the filter reduces lead. And for some reason, that pitcher ended up in like 30% or 40% of all American households. Nobody really thought about, well, what is it really taking out? I mean, yeah, it makes the tap water taste okay. It's drinkable. But what's still left in the water after it goes through that? So let's talk a little bit about the various filters out there. I noticed that early on that the pitchers had some big flaws. #1, you have that very small section on top that you fill up, and then it takes about 15 to 20 minutes for the water to go down through the filter and hit the bottom part. Now, when that filter stops filtering, you don't know it. Matter of fact, the only way you figure it out is when the water starts to taste really bad. And I got another shock for you. By the time that water starts to taste bad, you've been drinking toxins and poisons probably for weeks, if not months. Because just think of a sponge, okay? When a sponge is filled with water, how much more water can the sponge hold? So what happens, and I could have put a big bowl here and done that visual, and maybe in the future we'll do something like that, but when you fill a sponge up full of water, okay, and you pour more water on it, what happens? Does the new water keep going into the sponge, or it literally just rolls off and it doesn't even do anything. Or it forces the old water that's already in the sponge to fall out of the sponge while the new water goes in. Well, that's how a filter is. A filter can only hold on to so much. And when it's full of lead, chlorine, pesticides, things like that, it starts to release them back into the water. Now imagine if you've been using a filter for 3 to 4 months, it's collected a lot of junk out of your tap water, and you don't even know that it's completely full because it still tastes okay. And here's the other worst part about it. Because it's so gradual, so in other words, there's nobody that has a filter that today it tastes good and tomorrow it tastes horrible. What happens is it's a little by a little by a little, a slight change every day to where it goes weeks before you finally notice, there's an off taste here. And that's when you go to change the filter. Now admit it, 9 out of 10 people that have one of those filters or the type that you screw onto the end of the faucet, you do not replace that filter every 2 months like they recommend. Every 6 to 8 weeks is what's recommended. Most of you are doing it around 4 to 5 months. So the filters really, it's not helping you. You're better off in that case having bottled water. So those are what I discovered about the pitchers. And even, I at one time I had a huge one in my house. I think it's like a rectangular shape, and you could slide it on the top shelf of your fridge and it keeps the water cold. I think it holds about a gallon. That thing would take like 40 minutes for the water to drain down. And I'd empty that thing out like that, and then it takes another 40 minutes for the next person to be able to get their water. And that filter now is getting used twice as fast. Do you think you're going to use that same filter in the big carafe as you did in the small one? It's going to be gone. So you're going to be replacing that filter every month, which nobody does anyway. So I'm not a fan of those, if you can tell. There's a new one now that they claim to remove everything, and they bring it down to the number 0. That's not a natural thing to do to water either. And there's a process called reverse osmosis that tries to do the same thing. I remember a guy about 10 years ago, he came into my office, and there's that meter that company uses on commercials. It's called a TDS meter. It measures total dissolved solids. It's supposed to measure the contaminants in the water, although that's what the water industry wants you to believe. So the guy did a demonstration. Now listen to this. And he did it right in front of me, and I didn't think it was possible. But he took some water that had a 0 TDS, right? So that means it's supposed to be pure water. There's nothing in it, right? And he poured some gasoline in the water. Gasoline. And we measured it again, and it was still 0. How could that be possible? So now you want to drink gasoline in the water because it says 0 and you think everything's been removed from the water? Not only that, but Mother Nature puts things in the water that should remain in the water. The different ratios of minerals and dissolved plant matter, those things are designed to be in the water, and they're in the water all over the world. So why do we want to take all those out? So anyway, I'm not a fan of any of the pitchers. I'm not a fan of any filter that requires you to fill it up and wait for a long time. And the reason is it has nothing to do with my personal likes or dislikes. I've been working with customers, thousands and thousands and thousands of customers over 14 years in all 50 states and in different countries, and listening to them, listening to what they don't like, listening to what they want, listening to what gives them a headache and why they don't like this filter, why they don't like that filter. So in general, I'm against any type of pitcher or flow-through filter. So I started looking at these probably a good 11, 12 years ago. This is a standard thing. It's a single canister filter. This is something that you'll see even in the big box stores. You know, your plumber might have installed one of these for you. And this is a good thing as long as the cartridge inside is a good quality. Now, most of us have no way of checking that or testing that unless you take your water and run it into an expensive lab report that most of these labs, to do a good 100-item test, will cost you around $300. Most people don't want to spend that kind of money. That little test, you know, that you can get down at the home box store, you know, it'll just test chlorine and maybe for lead. That's not telling you much because there could be hundreds of things in the water. But the biggest problem that I found with these is the same thing that I found with the pitcher. When there's only one filter, you're asking this one filter to do a whole lot. And just think of this. To fill up a glass of water, let's say our average glass these days are a 16-ounce glass, okay? You don't want to sit there for 5 minutes waiting for the water to come out like a spaghetti string and wait there for your water to fill up. You want to fill it up as quickly as possible and drink your water, right? Or if you're filling up a pot to make, you know, pasta or cook, or your coffee pot or any of larger needs, you want it to work pretty quick. Well, when the water goes in here, by the time it goes through the filter and comes out, you know, you're talking about only about 2 to 3 seconds. So let's count that out. 1, 2, 3. That's how long the water you're about to drink has had to sit in this filter. Now, carbon is pretty miraculous, and there's other filter materials that are miraculous, but the point is, it's called contact time, okay? So if you have such a short contact time and you're depending on one filter, that's a big problem. So it took me a couple years of testing water and getting feedback, listening to customers, using them myself, to realize that a single canister, it's just not the best choice. I'm not saying it's a bad choice. It's a much better choice than these pitchers and the flow-through ones. But we want the best, okay? Our company is about providing the best. We don't want something that's average or that is okay. We're a health-based company. Everybody that works in our company is health-minded, alternative health. We want the best help we can possibly get. So this is not the best choice. And then at some point, I moved on to developing my own system, which is 3 canisters. Now this is something that I haven't sold for probably 6, 7 years, and I pulled this out of our warehouse, okay? But this was a great advancement over that single. So I have 3 canisters that each can do a separate job. And the main job the 2 canisters do is really to protect the last filter at the end. So it almost has to do no work and can last what we want filters to last, which is a full year. Because we know from experience that you are not going to change your filters every couple months. If you have to do it once a year, you're going to do it. But if you have to do it every couple months and you have to pay for it, people just don't do it, and then they end up drinking bad water, which is unhealthy. So I needed a system that's friendly, user-friendly, and that the customers can afford. It's cost-effective, and they only have to maintain it once a year. The problem with this system, there's a bunch of problems with this system. Number one is this is a standard canister. You know, it's just like this one. It's got this top and the bottom screws on. If you see on the side, it's the same exact top as this one. So it's just a metal bracket holding 3 of them together. But what I found, going out to hundreds of homes myself to change these out, so now this is under your kitchen cabinet, right? How many of you have your kitchen cabinet bottom destroyed because you've had water leaks? The laminate is peeling up, or all you can see is particle board there now, or you have black mold stains, or it smells under there, Or I can't tell you how many cabinets that I've opened up and that thing is almost rotted away, that bottom, because they've had so many leaks over the years. So what I found was first of all, you need a wrench to open this. So you have to pull it, unscrew it, lift this off. And remember, this is full of water. So as I'm lifting it off, even if you put a towel under there, you end up spilling water all over the place. The second issue that I had is these things, because of the calcium and minerals in the water, these canisters were like super glue on here. Now you might be able to tell, I've been lifting weights for quite a few years and powerlifting and things like that. So I could lift a pretty good amount of weight. And I'm telling you, I would struggle with these canisters. And I'm thinking, how could some of our elderly customers that have arthritis or things like that, how are they going to get this canister off? And a lot of them would call and complain and say, we can't. So, pulling this thing off became almost impossible. So the other thing is the cartridges, the majority of the cartridges available from different suppliers that I can put inside here did not have any type of certifications. So the manufacturer said, yes, it will do this, this, or that, but there's no proof. They didn't get it certified by a third party, an independent third party. And we have a foundation called NSF. This is the water police of the industry. They're the ones who approve everything that goes in a restaurant, in a hospital, and water drinking filters. If you want to make a claim that your water filter can reduce lead, like that one pitcher company does, you have to go to NSF and you have to pay them to take your water filter and test it, and they prove whether it reduces lead or not. So it's very expensive. I mean, extremely expensive to get that NSF certification on your filter. And 98% of filters that you find in any store or on the market has an NSF certification. Now, what I've noticed over the years is a lot of people will put the NSF letters on their package because the plastic is made of NSF materials. So now because the plastic is approved, they put NSF on the package to make you think it's a certified filter. It's not. If your product is NSF certified, you can go to the nsf.com website, look up the company name, and you will find the certifications of the product. So I found that most of the filters that I can get my hands on were not NSF certified, and the ones that were so expensive. I'll give you an idea of how expensive. Just one cartridge I'd have to sell for $300 for me to make my ends meet in my business. One cartridge was $300 on an NSF approved for what I want it to be approved for. Okay, but besides that, this was getting really close to what we wanted. The water goes in at full speed and it comes out at full speed. Between all three, it's got great contact time, and the third filter is protected, so you do get a full 12 months out of these, and it's still performing well. But this wasn't where we wanted to go.
Think about the air. Doctors wear masks during surgery. Dental hygienists wear them during routine procedures. There is risk of spreading C. diff from simply flushing a toilet. Of the nearly 2 million people contracting healthcare-acquired infections each year, nearly 99,000 people die, and the cost to the healthcare system is estimated to be $20 billion annually. UV has been used as a disinfection tool for decades in healthcare. But the challenge with UVC technology has always been the method of delivery. It can't be used in occupied spaces. Disinfection only lasts until the space is occupied again, and it's only effective in areas that are direct line of sight. Until now. That is exactly what makes UV24 different. Operating 24/7, 365 in occupied spaces, UV24 is a fast, continuous UVC air purification system that reduces the levels of bacteria and fungi in treated air and reduces the settling of viable bacteria and fungi on surfaces. Healthcare staff have reported improved indoor air quality and reduced odors. The patented UV24 is an active system that draws microorganisms to a UV light. There are 2 vents on the face of the fixture. Behind one is an array of fans which draws air through a MERV6 filter which removes larger particles of dust. Air is pulled through the filter into the UV chamber mounted on the back of the fixture at approximately 50 cubic feet per minute. It can treat a volume of air equivalent to a 10 by 10 by 8 foot room 4 times per hour. The air moves through a set of safety baffles which prevent the UV light from escaping the chamber. Once in the chamber, a high-intensity UV lamp operates at the peak wavelength of 253.7 nanometers. The air is then pushed through an opposing grill at a 30-degree angle to promote circulation of the treated air throughout the room. Clinical studies have demonstrated that UV24 is effective in removing better than 90% of airborne pathogens, including those most responsible for HAIs. Once UV24 is installed, it requires no engineering controls to operate and minimal maintenance, which helps keep operational costs low. UV24 is designed for use in hospitals, long-term care facilities, nursing homes, schools, commercial office buildings, and any other location where cleaner environmental air is desired. The energy-efficient UV24 is available in 3 styles. For more information on UV24, contact your local distributor.
It took a lot of money in research and development and a lot of time at looking different technologies all over the world. And our manufacturer, Chanson, developed a system just for us, which we named the HyperClean. And this is the Cadillac of filtration systems today. I am very proud of this system and everyone involved, not only in our company, but every friend of ours, every family member of ours has this in their home. And the interesting thing about this, I'll go through the benefits and what each filter does in a second, but the interesting thing about this is I have now tested this in maybe about 27 states and 3 different countries. And I've seen some really bad water go through here. I mean, literally, when the water comes out of the pipe, it's a dullish red to brown because it's going through those old, galvanized pipes that are caked with rust on the inside. And the water's coming through like that, and you could not drink it. Believe me, you would throw up to drink that water. Not even about the chlorine and other chemicals. Just the metallic rust taste of the water is so horrid. you couldn't consume it. We put that through the system, and it tastes like the best bottled water, because let's face it, if the water, I could say this takes out 1 million contaminants and it makes your water like a crystal geyser from Hawaii, and none of it matters if the water doesn't taste good and you don't enjoy drinking it. Because, you know, if you ask a learned person about hydration, they're going to tell you dehydration could be one of the leading factors to all sickness and disease. And do you know that the majority of the population walks around dehydrated all the time? So I don't care what disease you want to mention or say, well, it's genetics. And well, if you think it's genetics, find out how many people in that family line were dehydrated, okay? Because dehydration will allow you to pick up diseases that you could have avoided completely. So you need to drink a lot of water every day of your life, and you need to enjoy the water to be able to drink it. One of the great things about this system is we can plumb it under the sink, and we have a great plumbing system to easily connect it right to your existing faucet. So you don't need any special new holes on the counter. You don't need to put in a new faucet on the side. When you turn on your cold water, you will be getting perfectly clean, delicious tasting water right out of the tap. Now, let's compare something. Before I go through all the benefits of this, let's compare something, because really, the number one competitor to something like this is bottled water, okay? Besides that pitcher filter that I've talked about in the beginning, the number one purchased water in the United States is bottled water. Now, the majority of bottled water is water that's come through a tap, and the company ran it through a filtration system, something like this, but of course much larger. And they put it in a bottle and they're selling it to you. So those waters are not federally regulated. That means they don't have to have them tested. They don't even have to tell you what's left in them after the filtration. And then you have the hauling of those plastic bottles. Then you have the dealing of the plastics. Then you have to worry about what plastics actually leached into the water after the water's been put in there. You ever think about that? The company's not responsible for testing the water after that cap has been sealed. They're not responsible. So if that sat in a hot truck or a hot warehouse for 3 months, by the time it got to your store, and now you're getting it 4, 5, 6 months later, and it's been in that plastic, and a bunch of chemicals from the plastic leached into the water, nobody's telling you about that. So there's a million reasons to get off plastic bottled water, a million different reasons. But here's another big one. How many of you out there are getting bottled water, and when it's time for you to rinse your fruits and vegetables, you pull out 2 or 3 bottles, and you pour the bottles over your fruits and vegetables? Or do you just turn on the tap and rinse your stuff? Okay, I've done tests, and the videos are on YouTube, you can find them, where I did a chlorine test on an apple and an orange. Now, an orange is great because it's got that nice thick skin, okay? I rinsed it under cold water for just 4 seconds and tested the juice from the orange, and it tested positive for chlorine, and the apple. So it only takes seconds from the chlorine from the water to get into your fruits and vegetables. So rinsing fruits and vegetables with tap water is just not a good health choice. I mean, yeah, it's going to rinse the dust and the, loose dirt off, but it's not a good health choice. Okay, so nobody's using their bottled water to rinse their fruits and vegetables. And believe me, I'm talking to people. It's my whole life. I mean, water's my whole life. I've been talking to people for over a decade about this. I think maybe I ran into one person over the years that said, oh yeah, I use my bottled water for that. The next thing is, when you got, let's say you're making a thing of soup for a family of 4 and you want some leftovers, right? You're going to use a pretty big pot, right? I mean, how many bottles of water you got to dump to get that pot 3/4 of the way full? About 10, 12 bottles Are you doing that? Or are you, again, making your soup, which is supposed to be health food, you're making it with your tap water? How about boiling coffee, water for your coffee maker? How about water for smoothies? How about water for any other thing, for recipes, all kind of recipes? A lot of you make bread and dough at home. Requires water. Are you using your bottled water? Probably not. So when you look at something like this and you realize, hey, everything from my tap is now clean. Not the hot water side, but the cold water side. We don't use hot water. I don't know many people that use their hot water side for making soups or vegetables or things like that. And by the way, some of you have an Insta-Hot at home. I got great news for you. You can plumb this not only up to your faucet, your regular faucet, but we can put a T-fitting on this for you, and you could also send the water over to your Insta-Hot. So you'd get perfectly clean, filtered, boiling hot water on tap if you have an Insta-Hot. All right, so the benefits of this are absolutely endless. You get a whole year out of these filters. I don't care if you're some people say, well, I don't want it going through my cold water because I use that also to wash dishes. Well, we looked at the capacity of this and looked at the potential water use of a family of 4, even a family of 5. Letting the water run, everything that you could possibly do at your kitchen sink for a whole year, and you are not going to use up the capacity of these filters in a year for most families of 4. The filters have a life of 12 months or 4,000 gallons. 12 months or 4,000 gallons. 98, 99% of those four-person households will not use 4,000 gallons at the kitchen sink in 12 months. So whichever comes first, 4,000 gallons or 12 months. If you got a family of 10, you might go through 4,000 gallons in 6 months, but the average is going to be after 12 months. So we say once a year you replace these. Now, since we're talking about replacement, let's talk about how difficult it is to replace these. Now, it's really difficult. Now watch this. It's really hard. Watch this. That's the old one, recycling bin, new one's in. All 3 in under a minute. Not only that, but you don't even have to shut your water off because there's a valve inside this head. So once you pull the filter out, it shuts off the water right here. And once you put it back in, it turns the water back on. So that's how difficult it is. Now, I don't care who you are. Now, I've got a gal, let me just mention this. I've got a gal in New York. She describes herself as the most unhandy person on the planet. She doesn't even know what a wrench is or a screwdriver. She doesn't even know what to use a screwdriver for. And I walked her through changing all 3 of these. And now she does it by herself every year. So it's absolutely a pleasure to change these and deal with these.
Think about the air. Doctors wear masks during surgery. Dental hygienists wear them during routine procedures. There is risk of spreading C. diff from simply flushing a toilet. Of the nearly 2 million people contracting healthcare-acquired infections each year, nearly 99,000 people die, and the cost to the healthcare system is estimated to be $20 billion annually. UV has been used as a disinfection tool for decades in healthcare. But the challenge with UVC technology has always been the method of delivery. It can't be used in occupied spaces. Disinfection only lasts until the space is occupied again, and it's only effective in areas that are direct line of sight. Until now. That is exactly what makes UV24 different. Operating 24/7, 365 in occupied spaces, UV24 is a fast, continuous UVC air purification system that reduces the levels of bacteria and fungi in treated air and reduces the settling of viable bacteria and fungi on surfaces. Healthcare staff have reported improved indoor air quality and reduced odors. The patented UV24 is an active system that draws microorganisms to a UV light. There are 2 vents on the face of the fixture. Behind one is an array of fans which draws air through a MERV6 filter which removes larger particles of dust. Air is pulled through the filter into the UV chamber mounted on the back of the fixture at approximately 50 cubic feet per minute. It can treat a volume of air equivalent to a 10 by 10 by 8 foot room 4 times per hour. The air moves through a set of safety baffles which prevent the UV light from escaping the chamber. Once in the chamber, a high-intensity UV lamp operates at the peak wavelength of 253.7 nanometers. The air is then pushed through an opposing grill at a 30-degree angle to promote circulation of the treated air throughout the room. Clinical studies have demonstrated that UV24 is effective in removing better than 90% of airborne pathogens, including those most responsible for HAIs. Once UV24 is installed, it requires no engineering controls to operate and minimal maintenance, which helps keep operational costs low. UV24 is designed for use in hospitals, long-term care facilities, nursing homes, schools, commercial office buildings, and any other location where cleaner environmental air is desired. The energy-efficient UV24 is available in 3 styles. For more information on UV24, contact your local distributor.
Now let's talk about what they actually are, because this is really an ingenious setup. The first filter is a sediment filter. It filters down to a level of 5 micron. And a micron measurement is tiny. It's smaller than the shaft of a hair, much smaller. So most people, when you pour a glass of water out of your tap, you don't see sand and big particles floating around. Everything in there is dissolved, and there is a lot of stuff floating in there that's tiny that you wouldn't notice until you took a magnifying glass to it. By the way, if you have a magnifying glass, try that sometime. Take a look and you'll notice lots of things floating around in what looks to be like a clear glass of water. You have metal particles from your plumbing system. You have plastic particles. You have all kinds of sediment. This filter removes all of that before it gets to the second filter. So what we have here is the first filter is doing all the work that normally clogs up a filter. So that sediment is going to be clogging this filter up long before its life should end. But because this one doesn't have any help, it's got to do all of that by itself. Now the second filter is a very special filter. It's a carbon block, and it's made from coconut shell. A lot of the carbon or the charcoal on the market is basically the same as that charcoal you have in your barbecue grill. It comes from wood. It's burnt wood. It's not bad. It's approved for use in water, and it does a pretty good job at filtering. But coconut shell is far superior, does a much better job, and puts a slight bit of sweetness to the water, a good taste. So filters that use a coconut shell carbon are going to produce a much better tasting water and be a lot more effective. You might also know that the cartridge in here is substantially larger than the cartridge here. Now remember what I was talking about earlier about contact time? The more time the water's in contact with the filter, the better job it's going to do. So this is the standard filter you're going to find everywhere. You don't find filters this size on the store shelf or on Amazon or other places. Or if you see them this height, they're going to be 80% thinner, like a thin cylinder. I haven't seen any other filter this size and this height and this circumference on the market. So that second filter is a carbon block, removes all the chlorine, chloramines, a whole host of pesticides, pharmaceuticals. There's a large list. All the things that we don't want in the water, even some heavy metals. This has the NSF symbol on the front, and this filter is certified by NSF. So we're not just faking it. This is a NSF certified filter. This filter then leaves very little to do for this last filter, which is the superstar of the three. This is a brand new technology. It's called super compressed carbon, where the carbon, and so we have a block here, and they basically take that granulated carbon, and under pressure, they form it into a block, and then the water has to force its way through that block with pressure. This block is compressed at, let's say, 400 PSI. PSI is familiar to anybody that's ever owned an air compressor or a pressure washer or filled up a bike tire or a car tire, okay? As an example, your car tire takes about 32 PSI. That's enough pressure to hold your whole car, the whole weight of your car up. This is compressed at 400 PSI, okay? This one is compressed at about 2200 PSI. So it is called super compressed carbon, and it makes it act almost like a membrane that they use in these reverse osmosis systems. It's very hard for any type of contaminant to force its way through this filter. Now, this filter also has another technology called silver membrane wrap. And this is silver membrane that's wrapped around the outside of the carbon block that prevents any molds, funguses, bacteria, and many types of viruses from getting through the filter, providing safe drinking water. This filter is also NSF certified. So the first two filters do a great job at letting this one not work hard. So by the time you've reached 12 months, these two filters will definitely be at the end of their life. This one will be close to the end of its life, but still performing well, and the water's still tasting fantastic. The filter system is extremely reasonably priced. You'll have the website, take a look at it. I'm not gonna say a price on this video because we run sales fairly often, and we're gonna run a sale in conjunction with the release of this video. So have a look at the website for the newest deal. But I'll tell you this, you have an initial cost of this product, right? It's higher than what your yearly cost after that is going to be. So the initial cost is still cheaper than buying bottled water for a family of 4 for an entire year, and you get cooking, cleaning, rinsing, all types of different water from where you're using the dangerous tap water that the bottled water doesn't provide for you. Then once a year you replace these at a much reduced price, and that price will provide you a savings over what you're spending now. I don't care if you go to a big box store like a Costco or something like that, and you're getting the cheapest bottled water for a family of 4. What it costs to replace all 3 of these per year is going to be far less than that. The other thing is, what are you going to do when that big box store runs out? Remember what happened this last year, these last 2 years with the pandemic? I don't know about you, but here in California, the 2 store shelves that were empty first, can anybody guess? Toilet paper and water. You could not find one bottle of water in our grocery stores, and we went to all of them looking for it. Couldn't find a roll of toilet paper, and you couldn't find water. Well, guess what? When you have this under your sink, you don't have to worry about it. You're prepared for emergencies. Do you know that you can go on Amazon, and I hate to give Amazon business because at some point we will have one of these on our website. But it's a very simple pump. It's called an in-out water pump that you could connect to this in a time of emergency. And you can pump your pool water through this. You can pump jacuzzi water through this. You can empty out your hot water heater or drain some of the hot water heater into a 5-gallon bucket. And you can hand pump water through this thing and use it as an emergency filter. You could send river water through here or water from a pond, even water that has green moss on it or looks very murky. You can pump that through here. The only thing you can't pump through here is ocean water because there's so much salt that would destroy this filter very quickly. So this is not designed for ocean water. So this is an emergency time filter. It's a filter that if there's a panic or anything going on and the stores run out, you have no worries. What I recommend people do that have this is get a couple 5-gallon jugs, empty ones, and you could fill this up. You could fill those up from your faucet. So rather than have stacks of or cases of bottled water that's probably leaching that plastic, the 5-gallon jugs that you can buy at most grocery stores, you can get them online, they have a different type of plastic that doesn't leach, and it's meant to be refilled and to hold water long term. So you get yourself, 3, 4, 5-gallon jugs, fill them up through your filter, store them somewhere in the house, and you're set for those types of emergencies. If you have an RV, this can fit under the smallest, I don't care how small your cabinet is in your RV or your bus, camper van, whatever. You can put this in. And I'll tell you, I've seen almost all camper vans, they're running tap water through one little filter like this, and that's just as bad as if you do it at your house, might be worse. So this is something that you should absolutely have in an RV or a camper. We have all kinds of information on the website that I probably didn't cover here today. When you buy the HyperClean system, it does come with the tubing and connections that you need. And if you have any questions, you have our phone number and you can give us a call. Above all, after you have this, please give us a rating. We know you're going to love it. We want to hear your feedback, and give us a rating on it. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks again, and thanks for taking your time to listen. Take care.
Think about the air. Doctors wear masks during surgery. Dental hygienists wear them during routine procedures. There is risk of spreading C. diff from simply flushing a toilet. Of the nearly 2 million people contracting healthcare-acquired infections each year, nearly 99,000 people die, and the cost to the healthcare system is estimated to be $20 billion annually. UV has been used as a disinfection tool for decades in healthcare, but the challenge with UVC technology has always been the method of delivery. It can't be used in occupied spaces. Disinfection only lasts until the space is occupied again, and it's only effective in areas that are direct line of sight. Until now. That is exactly what makes UV24 different. Operating 24/7, 365 in occupied spaces, UV24 is a fast, continuous UVC air purification system that reduces the levels of bacteria and fungi in treated air and reduces the settling of viable bacteria and fungi on surfaces. Healthcare staff have reported improved indoor air quality and reduced odors. The patented UV24 is an active system that draws microorganisms to a UV light. There are 2 vents on the face of the fixture. Behind one is an array of fans which draws air through a MERV 6 filter which removes larger particles of dust. Air is pulled through the filter into the UV chamber mounted on the back of the fixture at approximately 50 cubic feet per minute. It can treat a volume of air equivalent to a 10 by 10 by 8 foot room 4 times per hour. The air moves through a set of safety baffles which prevent the UV light from escaping the chamber. Once in the chamber, a high-intensity UV lamp operates at the peak wavelength of 253.7 nanometers. The air is then pushed through an opposing grill at a 30-degree angle to promote circulation of the treated air throughout the room. Clinical studies have demonstrated that UV24 is effective in removing better than 90% of airborne pathogens, including those most responsible for HAIs. Once UV24 is installed, it requires no engineering controls to operate and minimal maintenance, which helps keep operational costs low. UV24 is designed for use in hospitals, long-term care facilities, nursing homes, schools, commercial office buildings, and any other location where cleaner environmental air is desired. The energy-efficient UV24 is available in 3 styles. For more information on UV24, contact your local distributor.
Hi everybody and welcome. I'm Ronnie from ChansonWaterUSA.com and I'm here to talk about the HyperClean under sink triple water filtration system. We've got a 1-hour long discussion that you could check out on Roku TV, that's ROKU, and it's the Natural TV News Show. Check us out. You're going to learn everything about water filtration, how the other filters compare, what you need in your house, especially during times of emergency where the store shelves empty out. The first thing that's gone is water and toilet paper. You have to have something like this under your sink. And it's not something like this. I say you have to have this one. This is one of the most advanced water filtration systems on the planet, hands down. Tastes absolutely delicious coming through here. is safe for the whole family, and you only have to change these cartridges out once a year. We have a discount code right now that'll save you $75 on this system. And the code, write this down, when you go to our website, chansonwaterusa.com, and you check out, you buy the filter, you check out, it's going to ask for a discount code. It's N like Nancy, T like Tom, V like Victor, NTV. Check out the TV channel on Roku, watch our interview, and learn about water filtration. Once you have this in your house, you will never go without it. If you live in an apartment, you can easily put this in under your apartment sink where you're renting and you're going to be moving. We know that. This is set for apartment owners so you don't have to lug bottles of water up and down or in and out of your apartment. And it doesn't require any holes or any major changes to the plumbing. Installs in about 10 or 15 minutes and is easy to take out when you move with you, and you can put the plumbing right back the way it was. So check us out. Thanks and have a great day.